Hi there, I'm Matt Donnelly of RotoBaller, and it is time to talk about those must-start, must-sit running back options for week number 3. That's right, we are already on week number 3, and it's hard to believe, but if we look around the landscape of the running back position, nothing is a guarantee anymore. If you're one of those zero RB truthers, you must be enjoying what you're seeing. Nick Chubb, he went down on Monday Night Football. Austin Eckler, there's no timetable for his return as he battles back from that ankle injury. Saquon Barkley, he looks like he's going to miss several weeks coming up. So what can you do at the running back position? Who are some running backs that you can trust heading into week 3? Because, hey, every win matters right now. Well, I'll tell you one running back you can trust, and it's Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Carolina Panthers. Simply put, Carolina, they're not very good when it comes to stopping the run. Now, they limited Jamal Williams here on Monday Night Football, but that's Jamal Williams, and I've kind of let that boat kind of sail away on me. Walker, he hasn't looked very good so far this season. In fact, last week, he averaged just 2.5 yards per carry. But why am I feeling this? Well, guess what? He managed to find a way into the end zone multiple times. And the other thing I love is the volume that he has been gaining. He got 18 carries last week. So the good news, lots of volume is coming Kenneth Walker's way, which means we are going to see that same kind of volume continue this week against one of the friendliest defenses in fantasy when it comes to the running back position. Another running back that I trust this week, and this one kind of might be a surprise, it's Najee Harris versus the Las Vegas Raiders. You know what? Throw in Jalen Warren too, because he's looked even more explosive than Harris has. But when you're looking to get things right, then there's no better time to face the Las Vegas Raiders. Vegas has surrendered 123 yards on just 17 carries last week to James Cook. Yeah, that's over 7 yards per carry. Cook also had 4 grabs for an additional 36 yards. So I would expect that the Steelers would follow a very similar game plan as what the Buffalo Bills used against this Raiders team to get back on track. Vegas is allowing 31.7 fantasy points per game to the backs that they have faced so far, so you can trust Najee Harris. And you know what? You can probably trust Jalen Warren as well. Another running back that you can trust this week is Isaiah Pacheco as the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Chicago Bears. The Bears offense, it stinks. Their defense, it isn't any better. In fact, it hasn't even improved as many had hoped it would have coming into this season. Chicago has allowed 175 yards on the ground and 133 yards to running backs in the passing game, which are bottom 5 when it comes to fantasy points allowed to the running back position so far this year. Patrick Mahomes and company are looking to get their offense back on track, and this is a good game to get it there. We are all accustomed to a certain standard when it comes to this Chiefs offense, and they haven't been there. This is one of those games where Isaiah Pacheco and the run game kickstarts that offense. Another running back that I am feeling this week is Javonte Williams versus the Miami Dolphins. Now, I've been very happy with the utilization of Williams so far this season, and really it has surprised me. This week, look for that utilization to ramp up a little bit more as the Broncos, they try to keep the ball out of Tua Tagovailoa's hands and that Miami Dolphins passing attack by grounding and pounding it against a Dolphins team that is allowing 28.9 fantasy points per game and have allowed 271 yards and 3 touchdowns to backs on the ground. A running back that you were seeing this week, James Conner versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, a general rule in fantasy is now don't start anybody who's playing against the Dallas Cowboys until otherwise proven. I'm basically sitting everybody that I have if they are playing against the Dallas Cowboys. Arizona, regardless of whatever happened last week, they are still not a very good team. This is one of those negative game scripts for Conner where he could be easily written off before the game even gets close to halftime. Besides the Titans, no team has allowed fewer than the 8.6 fantasy points per game that the Cowboys have, and they've limited running backs to 89 yards on the ground and have yet to concede a single touchdown. Another running back that I'm sitting this week is Dameon Pierce versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I just said how good the Dallas defense was against the run. Well, surprisingly, the Jaguars have only allowed 93 rushing yards to opposing backs in 2 contests. Pierce has a better outlook than Conner this week, as the Texans should be able to remain a little bit more balanced against the Jaguars and the Cardinals against the Cowboys. But last week against the Colts, Pierce only carried the ball 15 times, and he averaged just 2.1 yards per carry, while Stroud attempted 47 passes. Now, I see this week's divisional matchup playing much like last week's divisional matchup, which is not good news for Dameon Pierce. And speaking of backs in the AFC South, Zach Moss is getting a sit this week against Baltimore and that tough Ravens defense. Moss, he had a solid return to action last week against the Texans, posting 88 yards and a touchdown on the ground on 18 carries while adding 4 receptions for 19 yards. That said, the Ravens, they aren't the Texans. In fact, the Ravens are allowing just 14.55 fantasy points per game and have yet to surrender a touchdown of their own on the ground to opposing backs while allowing just 114 yards so far this year. Let's hit the ground running with the starts and sits for week number 3, starting with Kenneth Walker against the Panthers in one of those get-right type games. This is going to kickstart his 2023 season. Speaking of getting right, nothing gets you right like a matchup against the Raiders. Start Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. We're going to keep going with these kickstarting games. Isaiah Pacheco helps kickstart this Chiefs offense against the Bears defense. Chicago's defense has been nothing short of disappointing, and another great matchup this week features Javonte Williams against the Dolphins team that has allowed 271 yards in just 2 games on the ground. Who am I sitting? Well, guess what? This week you are sitting James Conner versus the Dallas Cowboys. Negative game script, great defense, too much to overcome. Dameon Pierce is also a sit coming off a 2.1 yard performance last week. Now he faces another tough test. Expect Stroud to throw even more this week. And finally, I am fading Zach Moss. Simply put, the Ravens, they aren't the Texans. It'll be tough sledding this week, especially if Anthony Richardson sits this one out. Now be sure to like and subscribe to our RotoBaller YouTube channel for plenty more great fantasy analysis.